Who said you had to be Latino to be an immigrant? Who said your skin had to be brown or black to be an immigrant? Who made that stereotype? Who made and built that system? On the news, who are we seeing getting raided by ICE? People of color or people who are white? People of color or people who are Asian? In which communities is ICE going to raid? Beverly Hills or Huntington Park?
I seen someone ask this question and it got me to thinking, you're right. Why haven't the Latin community called on the Asians that's in California to go out and march and help? Why is the call of action only to black people? I just really want to know. Because they call themselves the model minority. So they supposed to be smarter, more educated. This is all per them. Why haven't y'all called on the Asians? Why do they get to sit back and chill? We already know they out to pew pew us. Let me know. Get down in the comments because I want to know. That's an interesting question.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right, so in today's episode, we are going to be talking about a very famous question that has been asked on the internet and quite literally has opened people's eyes, right? You know, Latinos were used to blaming Black Americans for not showing up for them, right? This is until a Black American shed light into a question that a lot of people didn't ask themselves before. Why don't they ask Asian Americans for help since the two groups have a lot of things in common, right?
Right, and up until she asked that question, actually people hadn't considered the fact that Asian communities often they were very quiet and often they are not seen in events like protests.
Right.
They are role models and law-abiding citizens who don't mingle with anything that will make their position in America
will jeopardize their position, right? So in today's episode, we finally get to hear from Asian American creators who are coming out to address the situation. And let me just say, they have a divided opinion on this matter that you're going to play you. And then we'd like to hear your opinion on this subject, right?
Right, and you're not only going to be listening to some Asians speak on this matter, they're going to be going toe to toe with Black Americans.
This
and I
should be
feel
fun.
like this was a very, very needed
conversation.
discussion. Right. Guys, let us know what you think about this episode and then we'll see you after these videos, right? Consider subscribing if you're new to our channel and we'll see you after these videos. Let's watch.
Everybody talking about this black and brown need to unite and all this good stuff because of the LA riot and all that stuff. And my thing is, can y'all sub us out for the Asian community? Because the Asians, they getting away with a lot of stuff. They not doing nothing. Ain't nobody mention them. They just lived in their own little world, peaceful. Like they ain't got no problems going on over there. They even had the Stop Hate Asian bill. I don't know if it's still there now though, but they had that bill. You know, they living good. Okay, so my thing is y'all talking about oh no, it's not all of us Latinos and all that voted for them and all, because what we can't do is lose all our YNs trying to help y'all and all this stuff when we gonna need our YNs when it's time for our own battle. You get what I'm saying? So no, we can't be sacrificing all our people for y'all to help y'all. Y'all should have voted, did right at the polls. None of this stuff would have happened. But y'all chose this. Like I say, get them Asians, get the white folks that didn't vote for Trump and all that stuff. Get them people. You know what I'm saying? Leave us alone because, like I say, we going to have our own battles and we going to need our YNs and all that good stuff. We keep our health together and all that for our own battles. Like I say, ask somebody else.
I'll say this, right? I'm a nobody. But it's like, I've been seeing so many people asking Asian creators to speak up about the whole riots in LA and all these deportation things. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. Asian people, we support the country. We support, the betterment of the country. We support that. So what is there to say? What is there to say? We support the deportations of illegals. It is honestly tiring because here's the thing. We want the country to be better. We want the country to be better. We want the country to, if you did it legally, if you stand in line, if you paid the price, right? You paid the money and all that, you did all the process, the paperwork, all the stuff, which usually most Asian people do. Why would we care about someone jumping in line, crossing the border and all this stuff? Why should we be happy about that. We're not really, this is the thing where we're not really dependent. Asian people aren't really dependent on, migrant labor, right? Not like other people. We're not really dependent on migrant labor. So we're not going to cry that the U.S. is pretty much backing what they promised. The U.S. promised, or this presidency promised, that they would deport illegal immigrants. They're doing that. Why are you crying? Why are you crying about it? This is the thing where, you see it like these immigrants are waving the flags of other countries, burning down the flag of the U.S., and then you think Asian people want to support that? No, they want to stay away from that. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. That's the thing. Asian people want to, focus on themselves and their community and their country. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. So really, stop asking Asian influencers to speak up about it, because you won't like what they say. You won't like what they say. So really, it's better off that they do the content that they're doing instead of, say things you don't like. Because here's the thing. Asian people don't want to focus on the negativity and, say what they're really thinking. Deport, right? Deport illegal immigrants. They are fine with it. I've been seeing so many people asking Asian creators to speak up about the whole riots in LA and all these deportation things. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. We support the deportations of illegals. Why would we care about someone jumping the line, crossing the border, and all this stuff? You think Asian people want to support that? No, they want to stay away from that. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. That's the thing. Asian people want to, focus on themselves and their community. Stop asking Asian influencers to speak up about it.
Yup.
The Asian community has played into the model minority myth since they entered this country. You never see Asians protesting. You never see Asians as a group sticking up for other groups, sticking up for themselves, even though they benefit from the fight that Black people and other groups do. They're the most white aligning minorities. And they want to just be like absent from society. They're almost like they exist in America to follow the rules, to not ruffle any feathers, and just to support whatever America does. And that is like, white is right. That's the way forward. Now, that's not all Asians, right? That's not everybody in that community, but that's typically why they're not looking to Asians to have a fight. When have you ever seen Asians fighting? I really want you to think long and hard about that. As Black people, when have you seen Asians at the forefront of any fight? The only time I can think in history that I can think of that is when the riots happened in LA and the Asians were fighting back against being attacked. Other than that, so yeah, that's why they're looking at Black people and not Asians, because Black people fight for everything.
And just like I said, they're flipping the script, just like we knew was going to happen. See, there's a reason why we were telling y'all out at those protests to stop carrying the Mexican flag or whatever other flag y'all are carrying, and to instead carry a U.S. flag or an upside-down U.S. flag. Because they see this, and it's easy for them to flip the narrative and say, oh, look, America is under attack by foreigners. And just within an hour of me posting that video telling y'all that, there they are in the comments. Here they go making videos. Because this was exactly what they were going to do in the first place. Seeing flags march up and down in these protests that are anything that they deem non-American. They were always going to do this. This is exactly why we said y'all should be flying the U.S. flag, to bring home the point so that they cannot flip the narrative that this is an attack on American citizens. So that when those photographers are out there taking pictures, they will see exactly what is happening. And there is no wiggle room for misinterpretation and misinformation, so that they can see exactly what was happening at this day in history. Bring your Mexican flags, but the U.S. flag needs to be seen more than anything, because it needs to be driven home that this is an attack on American citizens.
I don't have a huge following, but I still feel a responsibility to say something. I lived in LA for 4 years now, and what's happening with the ICE raids, the fear, the silence, especially from those within the Asian American community, has been really weighing heavily on my heart. I grew up in Queens, New York around large Latino and Hispanic communities, and I've witnessed firsthand how deeply connected our communities are. A lot of Asian-owned businesses often rely on the labor of undocumented workers, often quietly without any acknowledgement. And now when the same people are being targeted, the silence is loud. It's painful. We come from immigrant families. We know what fear looks like, and we know what sacrifice looks like. And yet so many of us turn a blind eye when others are being targeted for the very reasons we're here. To those who are affected, I don't know what to say. I am truly sorry. You deserve to feel safe and you deserve to be seen. And to influencers, this moment calls for more than just posts about hidden gems in LA and food spots.
This video is for the Asian American influencers, specifically the ones that use Asian accents for views and clout. And I'm going to apologize in advance for all the expletives that I'm about to say, but I've been brewing and holding this in for months now, since the last season of Squid Games dropped, when there was an actual political turmoil in South Korea when they went on Netflix's dime. And even though it literally applied perfectly to the whole plot of Squid Games, not a single one of them spoke out about it, but I'm drawing the line here. Because what do you mean? You're literally putting on wigs and outfits to mimic your immigrant Asian fathers and mothers, using their accents for views and clout, and all the while you're trying to embody their whole immigrant experience, you're watching people getting taken away from their families by ICE illegally and unconstitutionally, by the way, and you're not connecting the dots and humanizing these people because they could be your own mother, father, and family. I mean, they are literally raiding elementary schools, ripping children away from their families, and you're sitting there posting and storying about going to travel and going to premieres right now? Are you fucking serious? Because who do you think relates to your immigrant parents' experience or accents enough to follow you, to give you the views that you make your money off of, that you get your brand deals off of? Immigrants and children of immigrants. And when I'm talking about the ones that aren't, who literally watch and follow you because they're literally laughing at the accent. So not only are you helping to stigmatize immigrants, but now when your own people, your own followers need your help, you're too busy living your life. Because I guarantee you oh my God, thank you for 3 million followers. Those videos do nothing for your viewers. They do nothing for your viewers. They are only for you. That's crazy, because I see these people who look nothing like me, and all I can think about is how my mother came here as a single parent immigrant and only got to stay in this country because I was fucking born here. And how if my mother still lived in this country, how she could be one of those people who are just being ripped away from my life right now. And you can't even humanize your own followers enough to even do a performative restoring of resources? Are you fucking shitting me? Fuck you. And I hope for your sake that you never, ever need the community for anything in your life, because bitch, we don't fucking know you. Shibai keiseki.
Your favorite influencers and what's happening in LA. Let's talk about it. When George Floyd was murdered by the police in 2020, there was like this immediate cultural shift, however short-lived. And it wasn't only like these nationwide massive protests, but also like this feeling that everyone had to denounce police brutality and denounce racism immediately for fear of being canceled. There was this crazy pressure, and it wasn't just influencers, it was celebrities, and it was brands, and it was everyday people. Everyone had to denounce police brutality and racism in order to be like accepted in society. The way people did this was myriad, but like one of the most memorable ways was putting up that black square on Instagram. However like ill-conceived that idea was, it was this sudden feeling like, I do not align with these horrible values and what's happening in this country. I need to make it clear to everyone all at once that I denounce police brutality and racism. It enabled the consumer, the people on Instagram and on TikTok, like consuming your content, to know, okay, this person is safe. Like, I am not lining the pockets of someone whose values are horrendous. Now it's 2025 and Trump is president again, and he sent a federalized National Guard into California against the wishes of the governor to fight against the protesters who were protesting what? Peacefully about stopping the kidnapping of families. And this moment is terrifying. It feels like we're on the precipice and we're about to fall off into something super, super bad from which we literally cannot return. And everything is crazy and scrambled. And then you go on TikTok and what do you see? You get to see your favorite NYC influencers and those LA girlies rate their matchas today and tell you how cute their set is. And, oh, I'm going to this restaurant later. And Please don't forget to shop from my Amazon storefront, all while families are literally being torn apart in this country. And this like authoritarianism is beset upon California. Oh, well, Chris, we don't go to influencers for their political opinions. Well, one, I think that's absolute BS. But like two, this isn't just a matter of politics. It's also a matter of morality. Like,
so guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about this episode on the comment section, yeah? You know, a lot of these speakers today made a lot of sense, and I do try to see it from everybody's point of view, yeah? And starting with the first Asian American guy who was speaking about how, okay, he was trying to explain why Asians really don't care about these things. And I feel like I kind of do understand him, only that, remember, in this world, no man is an island, and as such, everybody needs a community. You understand?
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, when Asians are in trouble, the people they align themselves to, which is the white America, would be the first people to come to their rescue. More often than not, it will be black people and people of color who come to their rescue. But right now, a majority of them, we are seeing them separate themselves from this situation, citing that they came to America legally, and most Asian people do, which we applaud that, right? And they say that they're staying out of this because they know illegal immigrants, the Latinos, are the ones who are being targeted. Now, you have to consider that there have been many cases on the internet of Latinos who claim to be legal citizens of America, who are born and raised in America, who have identification, and they also have passports that belong to the American people, you know. But at that, most of them are coming up and saying that they're also being harassed, and some of them have been also deported illegally, as the case of the one who was deported in El Salvador, right?
Right. And then also, when you look at what the guy was saying, there's something very important he mentioned that I feel like was not something that Asian Americans mentioned out loud, but right now he has put it out there for people to just validate people's thoughts, yeah? And he said, why should we care about illegal immigrants when we don't depend on illegal workers? That is the Asian American community, and that is very important to highlight, because also an observation, a lot of Asians kind of have unity amongst their own community. That means when they're going to do businesses, the only people they're gonna be hiring, or majority of their workers are gonna be people from their own community. So you'd see why Asians, okay, you see his point, you'd see why they don't care in that capacity about illegals from the Latin community, you know. And he was also saying he doesn't care about illegals because why should he? Yeah? They're only deporting illegal immigrants, yeah?
Of which
and
that is where they're going wrong, because these deportations, and we've also seen on social media and on television, it's not only illegal immigrants, also legal Latinos are being targeted. Now, we've observed that the difference comes in between African Americans and the Asian community in America, whereby African Americans, even if they're not physically going to join the protest, they're speaking up against deportation of legal citizens of America. They're very vocal about that, right? They're advocating, some are advocating for the legal citizens who've been deported, and they're bringing those cases into light so that those people do not get forgotten in some capacity, right? While the Asian community, then they assume everybody who's been nabbed and taken to the ICE detention centers are illegals. Then they're just saying, if you've been gotten, then it means you're an illegal.
Right, guys, let's think about that for a moment. And you know, one thing I have to recognize Black Americans for is that, right, they're there, they're physically and emotionally they're there. Even if some are not supporting the Latin community, you can hear their voices are being heard, their opinions are being heard. And for those ones who are telling the Latin community, we told you so, even that in itself is an opinion, and it contributes to the great debate or discussion about whatever is happening right now in LA, community. Because every voice needs to be heard, whether or not it's supporting or against, you know.
Right, and I do feel like Asian community has come under immense scrutiny because there is a big number of Asian influencers living in LA who could have had their voices heard by the great masses, you know. And then another thing is, even if Americans, the Black Americans come and castigate Latinos, at the end of the day, I do feel like these two groups, they sort of have an understanding in that Black Americans can tell Latinos off when Latinos are wrong. And I do feel like Latinos might not see it in this point, but Black Americans speaking up, whether it is in a negative way or a positive way, it is still bringing light to their plight.
I mean, it actually means that they care.
Right, and they're bringing light to their plight.
Right, unlike Asian Americans who are totally silent, and the ones who have decided to come up, okay, I'm happy I've seen a few of them supporting and talking against this, you know, because guys, okay, at the end of the day, we all have to remember that, as some of the ladies who spoke today highlighted, all of them at the bottom line, all of them are immigrants, and all of them are not white. You understand? We've not had a lot of cases about white immigrants being harassed, and you know, they are there, but very few.
Yeah, the funniest thing is, yesterday I saw a Black American woman who was saying, America is filled with a lot of immigrants. It's just that the white immigrants are not seen. Why? Because so long as you are Russian and you can burn under the sun, so long as you're what is it called, Portuguese, and you can burn under the sun, so long as you are Italian and you can burn under the sun. In short, she said, so long as you have white skin and you can burn under the sun, it doesn't matter if you're Russian, it doesn't matter if you're Portuguese, it doesn't matter if you're coming from Ireland, you know. So long as you burn under the sun, you are welcomed under the American umbrella, because they only want white immigrants. That's why you don't see white immigrants, a lot of them, on the detention centers.
You know what I don't get, guys, is that for a country that was occupied by immigrants at the beginning, how did they manage to successfully build a system to such a point where right now the minority or people who are not looking like these are being targeted to such a heavy level where it's giving them security to be able to blend in? It doesn't matter if they were born there or not, but provided they don't open their mouths for you to hear their accent, they all look the same, so they're not being harassed, you know.
Right.
Because you can imagine right now what it's looking for people like, okay, guys, let's just picture this. When finally, I know there's a lot of Latinos in America and in LA. When they finally get done with the Latinos, who are they coming for next? Do you think it's going to be the Asian Americans? Do you think you don't have faults? You know.
I saw a very interesting video also of an Asian woman. I don't know if she was Chinese. No, she wasn't Chinese, obviously. She must have been Korean or Japanese. I can't tell the difference. Maybe because they all kind of
Korean,
look the
Japanese
same.
And Korean, you can tell. I can tell the difference.
You can, but sometimes you can't if they're born in America and they're mixed with something. Because some of them will have open eyes. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, what I was saying is this Asian lady was saying that also she was just thought the same way you said that when Latinos,
when they're done with
Latinos, Asian communities are gonna be targeted because as it is, Chinese students, all their visas have been cancelled, the student visas, and right now they're having a very difficult time accessing studies in America and such like places, right? And then another thing, Americans, a lot of them, Black Americans and mostly Latinos, accused Asians, especially Asian influencers in LA, of being tone deaf, because right now, as many people are posting about the protests and the situation in LA, then they're posting about lifestyle and where to shop, what to do, you know. So they've been accused of being a very tone deaf group.
I would say that is a very what way of living. They're very unbothered and like their situation is very unrelatable, because when people are talking about exactly, while people are talking about real issues, then they choose to ignore, to be blinded, you know. And what gets me is that even a few white people are coming up, they're seeing what's happening and they're speaking against it, you know. So how comes Asians get to act like, you know, nothing is happening and, you know, nothing is affecting
them, and they genuinely believe this immigration is to better the country, of which to some degree I also agree, but it becomes problematic when it affects even the actual citizens, you know, because there's also a Latino man, not a Latino but an Asian man, who said the problem with these Latinos, I'm just paraphrasing, the problem with these Latinos is they come to someone's country which is hosting them, lift up their flags and burn the American flag. Now that is something that I myself can agree with that Asian, that particular point.
I mean,
because
it's quite
even
relatable.
it's relatable. If you're in America, you have to lift the American flag, especially when you're going to things like protests. Don't make it seem like, even if you're fighting for a just cause, don't make it seem like you're disrespecting the country that is hosting you by banning their flag and lifting yours up.
Or
because
it will look like you want to take over that country.
You know, just be respectful to the people who are hosting you in their country.
Before you go on, I'll give an example of what happened in Kenya some time ago with a community called the Somali community, guys.
Of Kenya.
They are well known across the borders for, I know black.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but the trick is, in Kenya, there are two types of Somali communities.
That's the point.
The Somali Kenyans who were born in Kenya and the Somalis who came as immigrants to Kenya.
Who are still even migrating to Kenya right now. Those ones are the ones when they go to protest for, and Somalis are like Asians, they hardly ever involve themselves in the country's struggle, but when it's about them, they're gonna come.
When they come out and come in masses.
Exactly. And now where the problem comes in is when they carry Somali flag
inside of Kenyan territory.
I would feel like they want to take over the country,
disrespect the Kenyan flag.
Right.
So with this point, I really do agree with the Asian man who was saying, even the sister, the Black American sister who was advising Latinos or Latino Americans, and when you're going for protest, please carry an American flag. You can have your Mexican flag tied somewhere, but let the American flag be dominant, because we also understand the pride of nationality, you coming or originating from Mexico.
Right. Guys, I don't know what you have to say about this. I'd like to hear from you. But I feel like the world in general has bad leadership, because right now, currently, there's something happening in Kenya, and there's an activist who was unalived in police custody. A day after he was arrested, he was declared unalived. And now Kenyans are not happy because, it's just a sad story. I don't know if you followed it, but we're going to do it on another channel.
There's a lot of protests going on, not only in America.
It's happening here in Kenya. There's something that happened in Nigeria that made them go out to the streets. I also heard Tanzania, there's a group of people, Gen Zs, who are uprising,
protesting for some reason.
Exactly.
So that is where you
and when you look at all these people, you'll realize they're all in alliance. Like, they all agree in a certain way of governance. America, Kenya, the East African region, you can kind of tell who is not like Ibrahim Traore, if you know what I mean, right?
Right. So you can just tell which country has bad leadership by the amount of protests that are erupting every year.
Citizens are not happy, and when your citizens are not happy, the country won't run smoothly. There's a certain quote I got from a movie, and I feel like it applies in this situation. If you rule through chaos,
you beget chaos.
Yeah. So you see now, the president,
how many of you guys have ever watched Wentworth? I highly recommend it. A movie called Wentworth. There's a crazy character called Ferguson. She was a psychopath who ruled through chaos, and the result was chaotic in return.
Exactly. So you see, they say sometimes not everything needs a muscle solution. And you see, the president of America, when he came into office, it seemed like he had
good policies
before he sat on that seat. When he sat on that seat, it felt like he was fighting the citizens. Like from the beginning, it felt like already war was in America. And look at where they are now.
Even the people who are supporting him initially, some of them have turned their backs on him.
But the MAGA farmers.
Anyway, let's just wait and see how this is going to end up. We just hope that things get better in America at the end of the day, right? And also consider subscribing if you're new to this channel. Leave us a comment on what you think about this episode, and we'll see you on our next episode.